am filming again for the first time in like 2 weeks. And it feels a little weird. Anyway, hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in April. How is it May 1st? How did we get here so quickly? I don't know. I don't know how we got here so quickly, but April literally flew by for me. I went to a Polycon, which was so much fun. I'm wearing my Polycon t-shirt. I literally just had the best time seeing a bunch of amazing authors. I actually had a very, very, very good reading month. After March not being the best in terms of ratings and stuff, I was just reading like really like 3-star books, and I had a couple 2 stars, which I never do 2 stars, but I did have some in March. But April was fantastic. I had so many 5-star reads. I am so excited to sit down and talk about them. If you notice my voice, it's just, I don't have a cold. It's just when I get back from a signing, I lose my voice, and it's just now coming back. But I wanted to film this for you. So, some statistics I have. I've read 16 books in the month of April, which I think is my highest month so far in 2024, which I'm very excited for. I listened to 11 books on audio. I physically read 1 book, and I had 4 ebooks. So yes, audiobooks have been dominating my reading, obviously, if you can't tell by the 11 that I read this month. That's just because I prefer listening to audiobooks. I get a lot more stuff done. I can sometimes listen while I work. If not, I listen while I'm laying in bed or anything like that. Anyway, so I had 9 5-star reads. 9 5-star reads in the month of April. 2 4.5 stars. 4 4 stars, and I had 1 like 3.5 stars. I go back on the rating. I go back and forth between the rating on this one, and I'll get to that one book, but that is a fantastic reading month, okay? I'm literally so happy with that. We're just gonna go ahead and dive right into the 16 books that I read in April. Now, I started off the month with a fantasy romance series that I am so excited to talk about. So I'm gonna kind of talk about them together just because they're a continuation of the series. I can't really talk about the second book without spoiling the first book, so we'll just be very vague. But I read Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole, and I gave this book 4 stars. And then I read Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, which is the second book in this series, and I gave that one 5 stars. I have not continued on with the third book because when I opened up that ebook, it was over 1,000 Kindle pages, and that was a lot for me. So I was like, you know, I'm not really ready to commit to 1,000 pages right now. We'll reassess. Books I read does end on a cliffhanger, so just know that going in. I don't think the 4th book is actually out yet, or it might be coming out very soon. Either way, I'm a fan of this series, and I definitely want to continue. We have our female character. You know, she's just living her life with her father, and you see that, you know, she's helping out. She's like a nurse. She's doing all these things, and that she goes back and forth to the like main castle or whatever, and her brother's like a scholar. He's doing his own thing, and this series is really interesting because you have this female character who has been told all of these things her whole life by her mother. Her mother recently disappeared about 6 months ago. I think at that point it was like 3 months ago, but they don't know where she went. But, you know, the dad has faith that she'll come back, but they're like, is she dead? Like, we can't find her. We don't know what happened to her. Like, all of these things, right? So she, over the next 2 books, over the first 2 books in the series, she's uncovering a lot of things that were told to her and or kept a secret from her, and that has led to you know, her being in this castle, being around the prince, and being around this royal family. The guy in this book, oh my god, what is his name? I think his name is Luther. I am in love with him. I love him. If you were looking for like the slowest of slow burn fantasy romances, this series is for you. I love it. I love the romance. It was a very good time. I was not explaining that really well. I'm so sorry. But I really enjoyed just like the world that she created, Penn Cole created, because you're like dropped in the middle of it. But it has some like historical aspects at first, which I think I personally like in a fantasy romance, where you're introduced in like in a historical way, and then you slowly over time kind of like, you know, introduce all the magic systems, the bigger world. It's really just like slowly introduce things. So I think this is a great fantasy romance if you want to dive in. The first book is a little bit on the shorter side, so it's easier and it's not so daunting, but highly recommend that. And then I moved on to Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I really like this book. I could not give it 5 stars because I don't know what it is for me. Abby Jimenez writes amazing male characters. They're open to communication. I love the way that they are. Like all of her books, I love her heroes. but just like with yours truly, the female character would say certain things, and I could be very harsh on a female character. You are absolutely right. I can be harsh on them. But for some reason, she will say a couple of things, whether that's because of past trauma or certain things, and it's never like actually talked about. And so I like, it just like was in the back of my head the whole time with this book, and I was like, you know what? It's not perfect. It's not a perfect read for me, but I did really love it. I would highly recommend it. I know friends that gave it 5 stars. They love everything, so I acknowledge this is a me thing, but I listened to the audiobook in like 2 days or something like that. I really loved this book, but I really enjoyed that contemporary romance. It's a new release that I would highly recommend. Now, I continued on with a lot of new releases for the rest of the month, but I did read a historical fiction book, which was Salt to the Sea by Rita Sepetys. So over on my Patreon, I do a historical fiction book club. Yes, it's just called the Historical Fiction Book Club because I am unoriginal and I did not come up with a better name than that. But we read a historical fiction book every 2 months, and we read Salt to the Sea by Rita Sepetys, and we discussed it in April. I had a live show exclusively for my patrons, so you can join over there. I have a free trial if you want to try it out for like a week and see if you like it. If not, then you can cancel it, no big deal. Anyway, this was a historical fiction book. I love Rita Sepetys' writing, except when she has multiple POVs. This book follows a group of people. It's like 4 different people. They all come from different backstories, and I will say that it's so confusing because it's a short book, and so the POV switches. You only get like 2 or 3 pages in each POV, and then it switches to the other, so it takes you out of the story. And I really don't particularly like that. So yes, I gave it a 4-star, but I would actually, after discussing with my patrons, I would drop it down to like a 3.5 star. I read Between Shades of Grey by Rita Sepetys, and that is my all-time favorite book by her, and that is 1 POV. So I think for me, the multi-POV things are not for me. It's not like something I really love and I enjoy, but I did like the story. I always love her writing. Her writing's solid, just the POV switches is confusing. So I gave it 4 stars. I'll stick with that rating, but it's probably a little lower. And then I read Wild Love by Elsie Silver. I have my pink exclusive edition over there. I just didn't want to take it out. It's like in my stack for a book haul that's coming for you guys. But I read this. I listened to the ALC. I absolutely adored this book. I had a whole reading vlog reading a lot of these new releases, and I raved about this in that vlog. I did an exclusive Patreon reading vlog for this as well, because they wanted me to read this in April. I fell in love, absolutely in love with this, just this new series, this new small town that Elsie created. And I know a lot of people like don't feel the same way I do, but I gave this 5 stars. I listened to the audiobook. The narrators were absolutely fantastic. I love the twist on the single dad trope. I love, you know, that Rosie is so fucking feisty and that she like comes in like a hurricane, you know what I mean? And she just is, it's like he's back to being this like giddy kid that had a crush on her, and I absolutely love that. I just really fell in love with this story. I love that it's a forced proximity. I love the other side characters. I literally think that this was such a well-rounded first book in a series, and I cannot wait to see what Elsie does for the rest of the series. I'm literally like hooked with all the characters. Another new release that I read was Only in Forever by Chloe Leese. So I'm a huge fan of Chloe Leese. I saw her actually at a Polycon. She recognized me. We've had multiple good chats about chronic illness and disability in romance books, and I just think she is like a pioneer for that. She like she's changed the game for, you know, chronic illness and disability being written in romance, and I absolutely love that. And she's getting the recognition that she deserves, but the Bergman series really changed that for me, of how I look at romance books and what representation is in that. And this was such a like bittersweet ending because this is the end of the Bergman era so far. This is the last book in the Bergman series. I don't know if she's gonna add any novellas or anything like that, but this is the last book, and it was a Vigo and Tallulah's story, and it was so sweet. If you were a fan of like rom-coms and you really love just like, you know, I feel like this is like a just like if you're living in a rom-com, like but it's not in a rom-com way, like it still has Chloe Leese's writing, but Vigo loves romance books, he loves historical romances, he wants to find his person that he can share his life with, because he sees all of his siblings, all 6 of them, you know what I mean, with their significant other and living a happy life. He's like, when is it my time? When is it gonna be my time? Like, I've waited all this time, like, where's mine? So you see that him and Tallulah have their story, and there's a little bit of a time jump, but it was so good. It's such a bittersweet ending, and I gave it 4 stars, and I really like this. The next one I read was A Funny Story by Emily Henry, and let me tell you, I think I get the hype with Emily Henry. So I recently read Emily Henry. I read it in 2021 with book lovers. I never read Beach Read or People We Meet on Vacation, but I really want to dive into those this summer. I may take those with me when I go to Hawaii. I think they'll be perfect reads for that. But I will say 100% Funny Story tops it I thought Happy Place was like my book. I loved that. It's a second chance romance. But Funny Story really, really, really dives into this whole, you have trauma, I have trauma, but we really like each other. And it's just the wrong freaking time. You know what I mean? And there's absolutely nothing we can do about it. And it freaking sucks. And it's that kind of situation. So the conflict in the third act breakup comes from this sense of, I'm trying to work things out inside by myself because I have shit going on, but also we're trying to have this relationship and get it started, and it's just rocky already because we both have things going on. We have different, you know, outside things that are, you know, outside forces that are, you know, taking us and making us be apart and all these things. It was so good. I love this. I was getting my nails done and I was tearing up and I almost started crying. I had to like tilt my head back while my nails were getting done, and then I came home and I was doing laundry and I almost started crying again. Like, this book really brought a lot of emotions out of me, and I've heard a lot of people say that. So I love this. Like I said, I have a whole reading vlog on 4 of these new releases. I'll link in the cards in the description box below for you, but make sure you go check out that vlog if you haven't already, because I really dive into a lot of my thoughts. But overall, those new releases were so freaking good. The next book I read was The Darkest Corner of the Heart by Lucina Connie. So I have been a fan of this author's writing. I read The Brightest Light of Sunshine at the end of March, actually. It was like the last book I read in March, and I really liked it, and I gave this one also 4 stars. I really like her writing. I really see the potential with her writing, and I'm very excited to see what she's going to come out with the 3rd book. But this is a little bit of a forbidden romance where you have our female character. She's a ballerina. She's about to tape the biggest audition of her life to get into this really like prestigious school, ballet school, and you see that she hurts her ankle. And she has to go see a physical therapist, and that's where the romance is her physical therapist. But I will say nothing happens like the time that he's taking care of her. A lot of people think like, oh, that's too forbidden. No, they have this really like quiet connection. It's like, I recognize something in you and you recognize something in me, and I can, you know, I can help you and be your physical therapist. But we don't really have to say that much. We don't have to dive into it. A lot of the romance and the really getting to know each other happens after, where he's just like, I am so sad that I can't see her every single day, because she's been in his office every single day, and so he goes out of his way to make sure she's okay. He goes out of his way after that to check up on her, you know, go to her place of work to make sure that, like, you know, no one's bothering her, that she has a ride home, you know, that she's not overdoing it. And it's like that type of slow burn, and I freaking love this book. I loved it. It was so good. I love her writing. She's becoming a new author to me that I really want to follow to see where her career takes her, because I feel like she's got a really good, you know, she's got a lot of things going for her. Another favorite of April was, oh my god, I can't believe I got this ARC, and that was Taming 7 by Chloe Walsh. So I got a physical ARC of these. They were giving away very limited ones, Bloom was, and I have a whole reading vlog on my whole thoughts on this book. But Claire and Gibbsy are absolute perfection. I love them so freaking much. They deserve the world. I love this story. While I did give this 5 stars, it's not my favorite in the series. You guys know Saving and Redeeming 6. Joey and Aoife are my top tier. I love them to pieces. I don't know if a couple will ever beat them, but Claire and Gibbsy, I love them. I appreciate them. I will say, I'm going to point this out 100%. I think because she got picked up, everyone's like, wow, this is such a thin book. You're absolutely right. You can tell where they cut out a lot of her stuff. And that makes me sad, because I love Chloe Walsh's writing, because she writes everything. Because she really just, she makes you feel like you're a part of these characters' lives and you're following them. And so I felt really bad that you could tell that there were some parts cut out. And I just wanted to see that. Like, I love that stuff. But I know from like a selling and publishing standpoint, you know, not every book can be like almost 1,000 pages. So, you know, pros and cons, but I give this book 5 stars. I love this series. I'm a stan, I'm a fan, you know, all of the above. So yeah, that was great. Now the next 3 books that I'm going to talk about, I think 3 books I'm going to talk about. Oh, 2 books, because I DNF'd one of them. 2 books I'm going to talk about. I did an Instagram controls my reading for a week, which is actually really fun. I put 2 book covers. I covered them up like with black squiggle, and then I put 3 emojis to describe that book, and I let them vote. That was really fun. And the first book that they picked was Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, and I listened to the audiobook of this. Let me tell you guys, I was so shocked I loved this book, okay? Because I've read another Megan Brady before, and I have not gotten on with that. It was not a great experience for me, so I was a little hectic. I was a little hesitant, but I was like, you know what? We're going to go in. We're going to try it. We'll see. The journey that I can't even say anything about this book. The emotional journey that I go on in this book was crazy. In the vlog, my reactions were so visceral. I was just like, is this really happening right now? I love it. It's angsty, it's emotional, you know, it's new adult, they're going to college. She has, you know, her brother's best friend that she has feelings for, but then she meets this other guy in college that, you know, she starts having a really cool friendship with, and that's all I'm going to say about this book, but I fucking loved it. I absolutely love this book. I don't know what anyone says. I'm glad I got this special edition because I love it. All the little stuff makes sense inside the cover. I'm so happy I got this. I loved it. It was a 5-star read. Like I said, I've had a really good freaking month of reading, okay? Now, the next one I read was a historical fiction that they picked for that vlog, and I was very shocked by that. This is The Things We Cannot Say by Kelly Rimmer. Everyone has been telling me to read this author. I really like this book. Now, this was a very interesting read. I gave it 4.5 stars because you're following two different points of view, which I do not mind in historical fiction, but you're following this woman who is it's set in Nazi-occupied, oh, it's not Norway. Oh my gosh, Poland, that's what it was. Nazi-occupied Poland, and you see the struggles that they're dealing with from like the start and when they first get occupied to basically the end of the war. And you see present time, our female character, you know, she is a mom, she's a stay-at-home mom, she has one autistic child, one that's not autistic, and she's just like trying to figure her life out, right? And her grandmother kind of gets sick, and she's like, her grandmother wants to go to Poland, so you're basically following her point of view, but there's like a little mystery there too, and you're starting to put pieces together. And I just thought the ending dragged on a little too much because by like the last 100 pages you already know the twist, right? So it just kind of like drags on. You're like, oh, I already put it together. And now maybe I was someone who actually put it together early, and it's fine, and I'm really proud of myself. Pat on the back, because I never get those things. But I just thought it dragged on a little too much, but still, 4.5-star read. I really loved it. The audiobook was absolutely amazing, so highly recommend this one. The book I DNF'd for that vlog was The X-Files by Morgan Elizabeth. It was just not vibing. I did not like the female character by chapter 3. I thought she was too prissy for me, which is interesting because I am very prissy. Maybe I just don't like to see that in books. Anyway, I DNF'd this one, so unfortunately this was not my cup of tea, but you know, we live and we love. We live and we learn, right? So the next book I read was another new release, and that was Midnight of Ashes by Tessa Hale. I'm not a Why Choose girly. I'm not a Why Choose girly, but I read Twilight of Embers at the beginning of the year, and I really liked it. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna stick with the series because I'm very interested to see where this goes. This book picks up right off with the cliffhanger that ended in book 1. Okay, this also ends on another cliffhanger, but you really get to see Hayden kind of, you know, just strengthen those bonds with her mates, and like slowly pieces start coming out about who she is, what she's doing, what they're doing, who's after her, who's after them. I love this hardback. It is so pretty. It's stunning. It came in the PR package, but like I really love these. I think they're absolutely amazing. So I love this book. It was a 5-star read. I'm living my Why Choose life, okay? I'm living my Why Choose life right now, and I'm not mad at it. Now, the next book I read was my only like 3.5-star read, which I'm actually like, when I tell you I am actually very sad about this, I'm actually very sad about it, okay? Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Okay, I did an exclusive reading vlog because for my Patreon, so that's over there and you can see all my thoughts. But I'll just briefly say that I personally think that the audiobook ruined this book for me. I think if I physically read it like my friend Jess at Peace Love Books did, I would have loved it. I felt that it was just another fantasy romance. Our female character was learning these things and learning about herself. She's already strong, blah, blah, blah. And it was just like this training montage for most of the book. And she's getting to know her main male character, but he's braiding her hair and I was trying to figure it out. And there's this games thing and they're forced together in that way and blah, blah, blah. Like, I just felt like it was every other fantasy romance. And I felt sad about that because I wanted this to be absolutely amazing. Like, I've been hyping this book up in my head for like 3 months now, and I was so sad that I got to it and wasn't that great. So I gave this 3.5 stars. Will I try and reread it? I don't know. I just feel like I have it in my head of my feelings about that. And I was just like, I don't understand why this has to be so long. And that makes me sad because I have this physical book. And I literally bought this book thinking I was going to love it. And I do not love it. And that makes me sad. But you can let me know if you've read this and how you feel about it, or if you plan to. Maybe I'm just the weird one, okay? Maybe I'm just the weird one. But I ended the month with 3 5-star reads. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is A King of Sloth by Anna Huang, which is so cool. I got the Target exclusive. It just came in today, thankfully, while I'm filming this. And it has this, like, step back, colorful step back. Now, I have said this over on my Patreon, and I think it's really, really cool. Okay, so I don't know if you could see it, but the top, it says, to my beta readers, Tori, Teresa, and blah, blah, and Jess. Oh, I forgot her name. Marietta. I was able to beta read this book, I want to say back in March. February, March. But she wasn't finished with it. So I read about 70% of this book. And I am on Anna Huang's art team. Like, I don't expect to be to read ever. But I was actually really shocked when it's Becca, her editor, reached out and was like, hey, so I read 70% of it and I just actually finished, I reread the whole thing because you never know what they're going to change, right? I give my feedback and I love this book. I was actually tearing up at the end of this book because I just love the ending so much. I love this series, and I think that Javier is a different type of character. A lot of people think that he's going to be one way because you see him one way, but there's a lot of emotions like stirred up inside of him, and I personally loved it. I personally loved it. I think it was great. I think that she really hit it out of the park with this. If you're looking for someone comparatively like the Anti-Heroes in Love duet, Elena Lombardi, which is one of my all-time favorite books, literally all-time favorite books. If you're looking like for another female character similar to that, Sloane is that character, I'll tell you that. She is very similar to Elena. She has a lot of things going on, and I just love the character development of both characters in this book, and I love their romance. I think that if you're a fan of rom-coms, Salone has this like love-hate relationship with rom-coms, and it was funny to read. Another book that came out in April was Burnout by Rebecca Jinchak. So I did put that I read this book like in April, but technically I read it in like March. If you guys don't know, I do work for Rebecca, so I was able to be a part of her team for this release, and it was very exciting that I got to read it. But I've read this like 2 or 3 times, like between pulling content and stuff. But I think that if you were new to Rebecca Jinchak, I really think that you would love this book. She's a sports romance author, but in this book we have a motocross rider. His name is Knox, and our female character Avery, who is an Olympic gymnast. They kind of team up, they train together. The banter is absolutely amazing. I love their banter so freaking much. There's so many quotes that I highlighted just as a reader because I loved, but also because like their banter is absolutely amazing. If you want to pick it up, it's available in Kindle Unlimited. Not sponsored, not an ad. I just really love all the work that she's put into this book, and I really want more people to read it. But yeah, that's another one that I just want to throw out there. And then I read Fragile Sanctuary by Catherine Cowles. I've actually read this book twice in April. I read it at the beginning of April to pull content for Catherine, and then I re-listened to it at the end of April just because I love this book so much. I got my trope, kind of like mystery trope paperback arc, which is so cool because I got the small town one, which is the pink one, which I love so much. But yeah, I love this story. I will say I'm a huge Catherine Cowles stan. I love a lot of her writing. I will say that this is like one of my all-time favorite books. I don't know what it was about this book, but Anson and Rhodes, y'all are not ready. This book comes out May 16th, so I know I'm sharing this a little early. Arcs are going out at the beginning of May. I'm so excited for people to read it and get to know them. But I'll tell you, I don't know what it was about this book, but I just fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with everything. I absolutely adore them. So yeah, go pick up this book on May 16th. It's a small town romantic suspense, which you guys know I don't always love, but I've been a fan. I'm also on Catherine Cowles' like team. I work for her as well, but I texted her. I was like, look, I know I love a lot of your books, but this is literally like the top like #1 spot right now, and I've read it twice this month. So highly suggest you pick up this if you haven't already. But those are all 16 books I read in April. Oh my god, my voice is going, so sorry about that. But for the emoji, drop me ooh, what kind of emoji? Like the Olympic, like a tumbling emoji. I'll put it here if you don't know what I'm talking about. Drop this emoji in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content from me. As always, I hope you're living a novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.